We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom and a caregiver. I think anyone with IBD should be celebrated, so the message here is not to disclude anybody or call anyone out, but it's to kind of draw attention to the downsides of only celebrating those that have IBD who are making like outstanding achievements or accomplishments. And so it's something I've noticed and I thought it was worth talking about. So
another term for this would be outliers. Simple version of it.
Yes, but an outlier. So do you want to try to explain or do you want me to explain it?
So I guess the way I'm going to explain it is...
And I'll help you. Don't worry. I'm not going to I'll help you out.
Okay. So the way I'm going to explain it is like you have a group of numbers like 1.5, 2, 2.3. They're all grouped numbers. They all are like...
It's like a data set. You have
data set. And then
data that's all similar.
Yeah. And then you have a number like 20 or -8. They're not even close to it. So they're like outstanding by themselves. So they're called outliers.
Right. Because they lie outside of like that average, group. Right? Yeah. The group. So where the majority is, they are going to be points that are very high or very low. Yes. And then you'll have the larger group in the middle. Even in school, you had people who were getting A+, some people who were failing, and then you had a majority that were getting C's and B's. And so it's kind of, yeah. And so that's kind of like when we're saying, so we describe outliers with IBD, we're going to be talking about like those who are on the low end of it, who are doing very badly, very severe, having surgeries, maybe treatments are not working. And
pain,
you're having pain, joint pain, maybe other illnesses are popping up as a result of the treatments, as a result of the disease. It's not uncommon for people with IBD to have other complications as well. And so you're going to have those people. Then you're going to have like the group in the middle who is functioning. They are probably they can be experiencing a flare. They can be doing okay. So it's just like people living normal lives with IBD. And I say normal, they're normal.
They're normal.
Yeah, they're normal.
Pain maybe because they're in a flare. But they're
having to get to appointments.
Yeah, having to get to
being immunosuppressed. You're still
really go places,
right. So there's still like those people, and then you have the group that is on the high end of it. That is people who are doing things that are extraordinary and would probably be extraordinary for somebody without IBD. Just to be clear, and but you might pay more attention to those people because it's like, whoa, that's crazy what this person is doing. And so that's kind of like what we're talking about. There's going to be a variety of people, just like with any disease, just like with anything. And so this isn't just pertaining to IBD. We're talking about it with IBD, but
it can refer to like any disease.
Right.
Anything you want.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, it really can. Yeah. Why is this an important topic, or why is this an important suggestion? And I think it's important because it can affect your perception of
Crohn's. Or any disease.
But in this case, right, like you're saying, Crohn's, it could affect it. We've had discussions on unsupportive family members or friends, people who don't quite understand, and it could very well be because of things like this. They may see things on the news or read stories online, and
if there's going to be a story about someone with a disease that did something, it's most likely going to be good because they don't feel like putting a depressing story, I guess,
right,
on the news. They want to put something that
if you repeatedly like, put this, because you can't keep just putting out sad stories. And even if it's life, even if it's real, it's like, I don't want to hear that again. So they're like, all right, well, let's get a feel good story.
So people will see that and they'll be like, oh, Crohn's doesn't look that bad. This person was able to do this, so everyone must be able to do that.
Right. But so they make assumptions, and that could be an outlier, and you're not seeing the majority because only the ones that are doing really well might be getting the attention. Good for them if they are doing that. That's something else to point out. It's not to condemn them for doing well.
They're just being themselves.
Right. They're setting goals and they are able to achieve them. But it is not right. And I guess it's like this with anything, to compare these things. And it's just, but I think it's easy to do if you don't understand the disease and think, oh, so if this person just works a little harder, they can do it. They can do it too. They're being lazy. And so these things are kind of, it can be hurtful. The majority, though, is not going to be doing as maybe as bad as the lower outliers, but not doing as well as the higher ones. So they're just kind of existing, and it might be frustrating for even them because they might be feeling like I should be doing better. Right?
Like they want to be doing better.
Right.
They want to be in pain.
No.
They want to be like the outliers, the good outliers,
Right.
But I mean, their body won't let them.
Right.
So,
and they may not realize, and that's why we talk about this too. You're not alone.
No.
Some of you listening might be seeing those outliers and seeing those that are performing well and think there's something wrong with you and feel like, why am I not at that level? And the truth is, you're exactly where you should be. And, maybe try to look to that as inspiration, but not something that is necessarily realistic or achievable for you. It's important for you to understand that too. And that's why we're talking about this also, to let you know you're not alone. We were talking earlier before we started filming this about Mason when he was first home from the hospital after being diagnosed. This was in 2020, the fall. And he was doing really very badly compared to where he's at now, I would say. You had a lot of joint pain.
Yeah, at the time, like if I sneezed or we went over a speed bump, my back could go out, Yeah. And then I couldn't walk for almost a whole day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd be in a flare and I don't want to move because stress and stuff, and I don't want to go to the hospital. So when we got home from the hospital, I was at the very low end. But right now I'd say I'm the higher end of medium.
Yeah, I think you're doing well. You still have challenges. Yeah. You still have your challenges, but you're figuring out how to live with this and how to make the best of life with it. I had saw a video of another child who was it was in one of the groups I belong to on Facebook for parents of children with this disease. And they were showing their son was dancing, like just doing really cool moves. He was very talented. And they were so excited to share it because it had been difficult for him. And this was like the first time he was feeling great and he was able to move, because joint pain's a real thing with this. And it's like Mason has been diagnosed with arthritis as well. And so I think a lot of you out there with this have it too. And so I showed him this video thinking this is going to inspire him and say, this could be you. But instead, ruined your day.
Yeah. I started crying because I was like, I'm never going to feel like that. Everything like hurts, and it's hard to like walk or run or do anything. And you're like, I'll never be able to dance, Yeah. And so instead of making me feel like, oh, that'll be me someday, it made me sad because I was like, I can't do that right now.
And that's kind of where I started realizing that sometimes just focusing on the people who are doing well can also hurt. I mean, it's important to inspire. For some of you, that may be what you need. But sometimes it's important to also see someone you can relate to. I think so more so than showing you. Yeah. And so that's what I had learned was, instead of giving him what I thought was hope, it was better to tell him about other kids who were like him. And at that time, he needed that feeling of knowing he wasn't alone. And so now I think you could watch it and it wouldn't affect you the same way at all. So it really depends where you're at. Also tell them that there's, this shouldn't always be like this. That's the other thing.
You're going to be doing great,
Yeah. I mean, realistically, that's our goal. That's what's with all the treatments.
If you find the right treatment, that's most likely going to happen.
So that's the hope. And so that's why outliers can be frustrating and for kids or adults with this. And
the disease.
Yeah. And it leads to, like we were kind of mentioning, misunderstandings where people think they understand the disease based on a commercial. And they probably think if you take your Stelara, you're going to be doing really well. All of a sudden life is great.
That's what the commercial shows.
And so people assume like, wow. And maybe for some people, again, for the outliers, certain people in that group, maybe they will respond super well really quickly. Others, like Mason, it takes almost a year to respond to it.
Nothing like that.
Right. And then he needed a second biologic on top of that. And then people fail to realize that with these come side effects. So there's also side effects, these medications for some people. Some people, again, some people no side effects, other people get side effects. So
and they're not fun.
No, especially being immunosuppressed. Yeah. That's one of them. But and again, we've talked about too, some people on every 8 weeks, you're every 4 weeks. So that's why there's so many different variations with this disease. You really can never make an assumption when you talk to somebody that you can have 2 people with Crohn's disease. Even at the gala, we just encountered this when we were at it. We were talking to somebody else with Crohn's disease, completely different treatments, completely different stories, same disease. And so it's important for us to listen to their story too, because it's different than Mason's.
Like we always say, Crohn's is different for everyone.
It really is. And that's why it's important to not just focus on people who are doing really well, because maybe there's a reason, maybe their bodies there. And I always think Crohn's at some point will be grouped into more categories. I feel like there will be more categories. And that's why
class 5 or class 6, for like the different kind of treatments that they're treated with,
I think that's, I feel like that maybe in the future, just based on what we've encountered and what we're seeing. So like Mason was just saying, it's important to remember people with this disease, it's all very different. You're all going to have your own pace. And so someone might be able to go hike a mountain. Somebody might be able to tie their shoes.
Yeah. And that's a big deal.
And that could be a big deal. It sounds silly, but it's true, because even bending down to tie your shoes at one point, it was very difficult. And even you would get, remember you get joint pain in your hands?
Oh yeah, my hands are like cramped sometimes.
Yeah. And so,
which actually would make it almost hard to do like school in a way, because you have to write down everything, and your hand's like, no, I don't want to do that, but you have to, because it's school and you have to remember these things.
And I'm sure some of you out there can relate to this. And so for him, maybe someone just maybe you got up, you tied your shoes, you went to work, and that could have been your mountain that you hiked basically that day.
Big deal of the day.
Right. It was like a big deal. So I think that it's just important for someone with IBD to remember that there's others like you, and to not get frustrated with yourself, and to celebrate where you're at and be okay with that. Be okay with what you can do and those
you are.
Yeah. Right. The other thing that sometimes happens, and again, I don't think this is a negative thing necessarily. I think I really know when people tell us this, they believe that it is helpful. And for some people, again, depending on your personality, it might be. But there's been times where like you are compared to somebody, like someone will say, oh, you're going to be fine someday. Because there's this celebrity that has this disease and they're doing really well. And like
that doesn't really make me feel better, because that might not happen.
No,
I'm sure there's a chance that will happen, but I mean, it's most likely not.
Like, I think just comparing you in general and saying that you're going to be like somebody, you shouldn't do that.
Don't compare someone to somebody else.
Right. Because just because the important thing to remember is there's celebrities out there, and this disease is not a glamorous disease. Yeah. It's not something that they necessarily want to talk about or show weakness. So they may not want to talk about it. And so they may have times where they do performances, or they're, acting, whatever they need to do, but we don't know what they're actually going through behind the scenes, and they might have a completely different story. So it's just important to not point out, just remember, like, not to tell somebody you're going to be just like somebody else, because nobody really knows. And maybe you can say, hey, wouldn't that be great if you did? Yeah. And you turn and you'd be like, yeah, that would be cool.
Eventually did grow up and you're not like them, it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, maybe.
Right.
And you don't want to feel like that, because that's going to make them stress, and it's going to make their disease
It's like
worse.
You're setting an expectation that might be unrealistic. Yeah. I mean, not all of us are going to go on to be, Major League Baseball players, or going on to be rock stars. And, it's like that for anybody. So to be at that level while you have IBD is a whole nother level of extreme. So it's just important to remember, we don't know everyone's story that's out there. We only know what's presented to us. And a lot of times they're not going to tell you everything going on. It's unfortunate. I wish more people are willing to listen, but or if you do, you're listening to us because we're talking about it.
Are you listening to us?
I know. I hope so. Hope we're doing okay. Hope we're representing okay.
They just turned us on to hear noises in the background. They don't want to listen.
Yeah, maybe we're just background noise. That's okay. That's all right.
That's good.
And so why are outliers celebrated? Why are these talked about more than somebody who's doing badly? And kind of like we just mentioned, obviously nobody likes a bad story. There's certain friends, that seem like they're always talking about maybe not feeling well. And it's easy for someone who is feeling well to just disregard that person and think they're dramatic. But for those people, that's their life. Yeah. And they really are not feeling well. Yeah. And it's something that it's difficult they shouldn't have to sugarcoat it and shouldn't have to pretend they're happy or always feeling well to make others feel comfortable. It's important to remember a lot of times people don't, not that they want to whine or complain, or it's more of trying to get people to understand, like, I'm just not feeling well. Again, this is why I'm not as talkative. This is why I'm not out doing what you guys are all doing. So I think it's just important. Empathy in all of this is always important. But anyways, back to what we were kind of talking about.
Where are we going?
So, yeah. So I think that in our society, overcoming adversity, having strength, those always make great stories. And just like even on our show, we don't always just want to focus on you being sick, right? It's like, okay, you're this, but...
Because you would get tired of me being sick, right?
If that's all we're like always saying, okay.
Guess what? It's another podcast about me being sick. Oh, another one.
And so we do think it's important to share overcoming and achieving things, but in a realistic way. And it doesn't have to be in a grand, huge way. Like we mentioned, tying your shoes may be a huge accomplishment. Woo! So for us, celebrating might look differently. But, a lot of times news stories want a bigger story, something that is really compelling. A lot of times these people that are doing well with the disease, they are a captivating story because they're unusual. I mean, really, that's why.
People want to hear about unusual things.
They do. And that's exactly why the attention is there. And that makes sense. It makes sense to me. With IBD, like we talk about it a lot because we're used to it. But I think for other people, it just kind of gets exhausting. And maybe some of it's a little bit TMI. Like, it's like, please don't share that with me. I really don't need to hear it. But it's reality for these guys. And it's real life for me taking care of someone with this. And so with like someone like a celebrity, they are going to be in the public eye. And it's just important to remember some of them are newly diagnosed or they don't understand the disease either. I mean, we don't fully understand it.
And I've had for almost 3 years. I still don't understand it.
And doctors are always learning. It's not a perfect science yet. No. And so when you have a celebrity saying like, oh, I was just able to change my diet. And so you have people like Mason, people out there listening that are like, that didn't work for me. But you have people reading about the celebrity saying that. And now they're going to suggest to Mason, oh, all you have to do is take bread out of your diet. You're going to be good. And it's like,
maybe that worked for them.
Right.
Or you, but maybe it won't work for me, I have to take my biologics.
And maybe there's also a misdiagnosis. They may not have Crohn's disease.
They might have actually had ulcerative colitis or something along those lines.
So what happens is it's like this circle and it comes back to us. We hear about these things and it's like, then you feel like you're having to get defensive and explain, and people get frustrated because they're like, well, you just have to do this because it worked for this person.
It's different for everyone.
It is. That's the bottom line. It really is. And so also the other thing that a lot of these people have, and some of these ones who are doing amazing things, is money, because it takes a lot of money to do a lot of these things. So a lot of times, even celebrities with this, you're able to have really good doctors. You're able to have the best treatments. And for a lot of people with this disease, you don't have a celebrity's income.
You're not a millionaire.
No, you're just working through life, and working is tough enough. And maybe you're having to take a lot of sick leave because you are so sick and you have so many appointments you have to get to. So you're just struggling to make ends meet, pay your bills.
You have to buy the biologics too.
Which is really, depending on your insurance, we're very fortunate, but I know some people, it's thousands of dollars a month. And so thinking about that, and this is something that is not their fault. It's not like he went out and bought a really expensive car that he can't afford.
Oh, just when I bought a biologic, I really wanted this biologic.
Right. It's like, it's not something you chose. It's something you have to do.
It's just essential for us to stay healthy.
Yeah, it really
stay
is.
Healthy and alive.
Healthy and alive, two very important things. And so a lot of times someone who may be in the public eye or who has more money will have a different experience with treating this too. And that does make a difference with what you can do and what you have access to versus just your average person. It's important and all of this to do like what we're doing is to speak up
and raise awareness,
show how this disease can vary, how it can
shine the light on how people feel with Crohn's disease,
right? And show it for everybody, how it affects everyone. Everybody's story is going to be a little different, but it's equally important. And that's why it's important for us to share this with others with IBD, because you listening are going to have a different experience and different story. And we love to hear them. We love to meet other people and just see how this disease can vary. And sometimes you meet people who are very similar to you, which is always exciting too, because it's like, oh, you're on double biologics too.
Oh, I'm like that
which
too,
ones? Yeah. And where's your Crohn's right now? And so anyways, so it's important to talk about it so people are aware of this disease, because that's important to continue to get funding and research. We still need that research into different treatments and accessibility for people with this disease, and hopefully a cure, figuring out the root cause of this and why people get this.
Because then we can maybe stop it earlier before it even gets to the point of having to use biologics.
Exactly.
Or stuff like that.
Yeah, right. So I think that it will go a long way, hopefully someday, to find a cure and to find the cause. And so you can stop it earlier or before it even starts. And I think that would be great.
It even gets a chance to wake up.
Yeah, basically, keep it sleeping.
Yeah, keep
it
the Crohn sleeping.
Don't let it wake up.
Yeah.
It's important to be a voice, to talk about your story. So share your story with others. It is very important to create that empathy and that understanding and to create compassion. It is very important. And people have been very receptive to your story. I think that we're in a great community. We have locally a wonderful IBD community that we're very fortunate to have. And Mason's been very fortunate to be invited into at such a young age. Keep talking about it and keep sharing. It's very important. That's the only way other people are going to understand this. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. And get people to understand your story and what you're going through. Each person is different. Help people understand there is not a cure. There's no simple way to fix this. Not all treatments are going to work. And you may have to go through several treatments over a couple of years. And the whole time, like, remember when you were on Remicade and it was failing and you were so sick?
Try it, because we had to try it. It's the first step of biologics for Crohn's,
right?
See if it would work,
And that
led to the Crohn's getting worse while we were waiting to see if it would work.
And his doctor, it wasn't for any lack on his doctor's part. It's a lot of you have to go through insurance to get everything approved. And insurance wanted him to try Remicade first. They wanted him to try a different brand of it. And the doctor wanted him to do Remicade. We finally got that through. Then we had to adjust the time frames on it. We had to go from the 8 weeks to the 4 weeks. I think you were even doing every week. We were getting an infusion every week at one point.
Insurance isn't going to like that.
Right. Because his doctor was trying to see if this was going to work. And because that's like a whole... We'll go into this because there's a whole science behind the different biologics. There really is. It's a TNF blocker. And so there's families of biologics. And so, if you don't react to one family,
you're not going to react.
You're probably not going to react to any of the other ones in that one. So you move to a different family, essentially. And so the doctors have to go through this. And the whole time that they're doing this, though, the patient is still getting worse. Yeah. And so it's a balancing. Then you have to start using steroids to keep symptoms at bay. And then you have to watch the anemia. And then you're taking other pills. And so at any rate, it is an exhausting disease in so many ways. And the majority you can relate
to stay healthy.
Yes, you do need a lot of things to go right. And so it's just important to keep that awareness going and not just focus on the outliers that are doing great and think that is just how disease is going to go, because that's not going to be the story for many of these people suffering. You were tired. Just the disease is tiring.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And then trying to work, go to school, you know how that is. And you're just saying joint pain, doing normal things people take for granted, writing with a pencil, typing on a computer, little things
sneezing.
Yeah. Whenever he was like, oh no, I have to sneeze. We're like, oh my gosh, like if he got a cold, we were like, oh no, like, the poor kid. Thank goodness.
I have back pain.
Yeah.
So if I do get a cold, it's not like I will be
right.
the whole day.
It's under control right now. Thank goodness. For the time being, we are very thankful for that.
So, it's a back pain.
So it's just, people can be tired, and it really is no wonder. Your body's fighting a disease, and it's just trying to do the normal things. We're normal people, like, get tired too. And so it's something we can all relate to, but there's like a whole nother level of exhaustion with this. And so it's important not to forget those people. Don't be hard on yourself is, I think, something that's really important. Like, don't be hard on yourself if you aren't the exception. If you're not the exceptional one, you're not a failure.
Not everyone is perfect. No one is perfect, but
no, you can't think like, well, if I just push myself, because maybe you really are pushing yourself, and maybe what you're doing is the limits that you can do at that moment. So it's important to still celebrate and say, great, but don't compare yourself and worry if you're not at their level. And maybe for you, setting a goal to be like that and get those is going to be good for you. And maybe for some of you, you're thinking, even if I didn't have IBD, that's not my thing. So find something else you excel at. And
so you enjoy.
Yeah. And another way for you you can find different ways to speak out and show different sides of this disease. And even Mason speaking up, he's found a niche for himself where he is raising awareness and doing things differently. And I have a friend who's running a marathon today with Crohn's disease. So, which is extremely impressive. He is someone who's incredible too. And I find him inspiring on many levels. But it's just important to remember, all of us in this life, everybody without chronic illness, we're all on our own levels. And there's no need to compare yourself and feel bad if you're not like somebody else. So make sure you just use them for inspiration and to congratulate them, be happy for them. But just, make sure we're not comparing and telling someone that they should be like that other person.
Don't expect to be like them someday,
Yeah.
Expect to be yourself.
Celebrate the small victories, run a marathon if you're able to, or just, get up, and maybe even taking a walk in your neighborhood is a big deal for you. And that's, set little goals for yourself that are attainable. Don't set it too high to start, just do what you can with this and
do your best.
You guys you're fighting a disease every day. So you have nothing to prove to anybody.
No.
You really don't. You're already a warrior. It's not like you have to go above and beyond. So to me, anybody who finds this disease is incredible. Like, you have my respect instantly. I've seen what Mason had to go through, and it's rough. And I see what other people go through. You guys are incredible people, and just remember that. And don't worry if you're one of the outliers on the very low spectrum, the very high spectrum, or if you're just somewhere floating around in the middle.
Somewhere,
If you're just in the middle, that's okay too. So, and we do hope for the people who are on the other end of the spectrum that there's something out there that will help you too, and you will start feeling better. Yeah. Mason was there, and
now I'm here.
He's doing a lot better, and so we have hope for that. And I think that's important to encourage. But it's going to be on your own timeline. Don't be too hard on yourself. And if you reach out to us, let us know if there's anything we can help you with, if we can encourage you in any way, if we can just support you and just be like a shoulder to lean on. Let us know. We're here for that. Mm-hmm. We are. Yes. We are. So with that, we're gonna wind down and
wrap it up.
Do our normal. Well, actually, before we do that, Mason's wearing another new
swag.
It's the same new swag, yeah. But it's a sweatshirt because it's cold in our house.
It is.
It's really weird here because outside it's like
sunny.
It's sunny, like 80 degrees, 70 something. I don't know. It's warm outside, but it's getting colder at night. So everything is so cold inside that we are like bundled up. I have, sweatshirt where we're like bundled up over here. And it's funny because it's completely sunny and beautiful outside. And
it's winter.
And also
it's summer. No, wait, it's fall.
It's also San Diego, which is really going to,
it's magic.
Yeah. So I feel really bad because some of you listening are probably getting, I don't know, snow. It's probably really
Can I be where you are?
like legitimately cold, and you're like, haha, yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
So, but if you are there, these sweatshirts
Yeah,
would be
you should buy one of
perfect.
these sweatshirts. Really nice.
So it's perfect. I guess what I'm saying is whether you're in the snow, whether you're in San
Yeah.
Diego, this is a great
If you're
sweatshirt.
in a desert, you should buy one of these. That's right.
Yeah, or one of the t-shirts,
Yeah.
I guess,
You should buy one
you
of the
know,
t-shirts if you're in a desert.
whatever. And then you can have the sweatshirt just in case for the, because it gets cold at night in the deserts too.
This.
So these are very
you need a jacket for
versatile.
the night and a t-shirt for the day.
So,
This
you know,
is a
listen to
beautiful ad
us.
segment.
Oh my gosh. So, anyways, well, you guys, if you want to see more pictures and follow our journey, head over to Instagram, follow us at Team IB Determined. We're always posting pictures, Mason's updates, hospital visits, anything fun going on in our lives. We posted our Halloween pictures. Mason had his infusion day, and you'll get to see our costumes. Everyone's dressed up. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. Made it a lot more fun than normal. So that was cool. And then you can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Buzzsprout. I always put a link there so you can hear us anywhere. And if you want to watch us,
if you're on YouTube and you're watching us, or you want to watch us, go to YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, don't forget to hit that bell. And also don't feel afraid to leave a comment, because we read all our comments, because we don't get that many comments.
So we say this at the end of every episode. Please, Mason's like,
comment. I'll be sad if you don't leave a comment.
Please talk to us. Yeah. We've been getting, though, a few of you. It's really cool when you do reach out.
Like a suggestion for our next video. Or
yes, something. Yeah, let us know, because otherwise it feels kind of selfish. Like, well, these are the things I guess we're going to talk about, because it's always fun when someone is like, suggest to me something,
an idea, and
it's like, oh yeah, because we can relate, we can most likely talk about it. But it's nice to know that we're reciprocating and we're making sure that you guys are being heard, and we're giving you a voice too, because that's what's really important. If you do want your voice heard, reach out to us, and we're more than happy to share it on here and talk about it and share stories, whatever it is, because we're all about raising awareness and keeping the funding coming to find that cure.
Yeah, we need a cure.
We need a cure. That's good advice. We would love to have more subscribers. Yeah. Help us make it to 40.
Yeah. Woo, that'd be cool.
I mean, that's like not a big ask, I don't think.
I mean, it's a big ask for me,
It is for our little channel, but but that's on YouTube. But otherwise, keep listening to us, keep watching, and let us know if there's anything you guys want to hear about, or if there's anything you really enjoyed, or anything. Share it with us. Message us on Instagram, comment on here. Let us know.
Yeah.
So you guys, all right. Like we always say, have a happy weekend, good day, good month, good evening, good morning. If we went through the time change, I hope everyone is handling that okay.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see you.
Yes, we will see you guys on the next episode.
All right.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.